I give the call to the member for Flynn.
Mr Deputy Speaker, on September 29 it was reported, that the Australian War Memorial Council has recommended an expansion recognition of Australia's frontier wars, the violent conflicts that occurred between British soldiers, colonists and First Nations people defending their lands. This will be part of the Australian War Memorial's $550 million expansion. Council Director Brendan Nelson said, and I quote, "The Council has made a decision that we will have a much broader, a much deeper depiction and presentation of the violence committed against Indigenous people, initially by British, then by pastoralists, then by police and then by Aboriginal militia. We will have more to say about that in due course." Mr Nelson went on to say the Memorials Council decided to have a much broader, deeper depiction of the violence caused against Aboriginal people, which he said was the duty of all cultural institutions. Mr Deputy Speaker, as the federal member for Flynn, let me be absolutely clear, I am vehemently against this. I have been contacted by veterans who have told me they find this proposal offensive, as well as numerous RSLs across the Flynn electorate with objections to the proposed inclusion. They have requested that this objection be raised at the highest level within the ranks of the national level, as they see this as a potential wedge to divide our nation. They have also said the proposed further depictions in relation to the frontier wars should be in proportion to existing representation and not diminish or outweigh the major conflicts that are depicted in the Australian War Memorial. The Australian War Memorial was created to honour the sacrifice of Australian servicemen and women who fought for their country or joined in peacekeeping operations, including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have served in the ADF who are also Australians. I completely agree that the violence perpetrated against Indigenous Australians should be appropriately displayed, but this should be through a completely separate monument or museum. I echo the comments of Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs Barnaby Joyce that the new Nagara facility to be built in the parliamentary triangle between Old Parliament House and the War Memorial is a better philosophical representation of the issues pertinent to internal conflict. The Australian War Memorial is not a place to recognise these conflicts. My question to the government is, what consultation was made and who was engaged for these proposed additions? How are the frontier wars going to be depicted? I call on the Labor government and the Australian War Memorial Council to go back to the drawing board, engage with our Australian veterans and their families and hear directly what they think about this proposal.